Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Beyond the Backboard Podcast. My name is Omar. Next to me is Earl. Below me is... Wait a second. That's not
Hold
right.
on.
Where's Omar?
He's right. He's right here. No,
10 seconds in. We can't even get 10 seconds without roasting our boy.
I'm sorry.
Welcome back to the Beyond the Welcome back to the Beyond the Backboard Podcast, everyone. Jeez, Omar has a hard job. As you can tell, Mr. Omar he's not here this week. He is currently on a vacation in South Africa. He is having the time of his life from what we can tell. But because of the massive time difference, he is unable to join us for today's podcast. So this is the first podcast that he's ever missed. He's deserved the week off. He's earned it. So Earl and I are going to be holding down the fort today. Omar will be back next week. So rest assured, the Magnificent Three will return. But for today, it's just myself. I'm Max. That's Earl over there. Don't know how this looks on Earl's end, but I think that's Earl over there. How you doing, Earl? How was your week?
Man, my week is going good, Max. I'm excited. Obviously, sad day, no Omar for the podcast. He is our anchor, our core, but the show must go on. I'm excited. It's been a fun week. A lot of random basketball hoops this week. There's been some pretty interesting games, but yeah, I'm excited to get into it.
For sure. I think the most interesting game of the week was most definitely Nets versus Clippers a couple nights ago.
Yeah.
A real barn burner, back and forth, competitive affair, chippy, high skill, a lot of exciting plays, everything you want from a basketball game. And when all is said and done, the Nets only lost by 59?
Yeah, I seen, the three cut it down to 60 at one point, so that was pretty impressive.
Listen, the Nets, this is what they want, right? They wouldn't have traded away Dennis Schroeder and DFS if they didn't want to lose games. Not quite sure they want to lose by 60 and get put on SportsCenter every night. But, a loss is a loss.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on this, Earl? Do you have any thoughts on that game? Because I actually have a couple thoughts.
Yeah, I'll start with it. I mean, even if you're tanking, man, ever heard the term ethical tanking? Like 60 points is crazy. 50, I think it was down 60 at one point.
They only scored 67. They almost got doubled.
Oh my goodness. Doubling score is crazy. Now, but for me, it's kind of embarrassing, man. I'm not gonna lie. I know you're not a great team. Shout out to the Clippers though. They've been really good this season. I'll say that. But man, 50 points. I don't know, man. I don't know. Shout out to the Clippers. I know it is just the Nets, but still, like beating somebody by 50 is impressive either way. I just don't know. You're right. I mean, maybe this is just their way of taking. Like, you know what? We're just gonna make sure that when that wheel spins and they do the odds, which they don't do anymore, which is kind of lame. We're gonna make sure that they remember that we were really losing games, so our odds can go up, which doesn't really happen. But still, yeah, it was a very interesting game to say the least.
Yeah. My thoughts on this is honestly, this is an encapsulation, and maybe I'm reading too far into this, but I feel like this is an encapsulation of why you should not try to tank in the NBA, really. Because the Nets, this is going to sound really weird, but the Nets were actually, before they traded Dennis Schroeder, they were, close to 500? They had, 12-ish wins. They were legitimately in the play-in.
Yep.
Obviously, they saw that, and it's clear that the front office is trying to rebuild. They're trying to tank. So they were like, you know what, Schroeder's winning us too many games. Goodbye. Then they said Dorian Finney-Smith winning us too many games. Goodbye. Traded both of those guys away for, I think we can all agree, less than their value. I think only getting seconds back when they were, they could have waited until the trade deadline and maybe eat the first for Schroeder, maybe eat the first for DFS. They sold themselves short value-wise in order to lose more games now.
Yeah.
I honestly don't like that approach. I understand that is how OKC rebuilt, was just going full-on tank, resetting everything, and just trying to shoot for the stars in the draft. But you also got to remember they got, I don't want to call it lucky with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but they got a little lucky with that trade. Yeah. I don't think anyone thought that Shai would become an MVP caliber player like he has now. They did get lucky in the draft. They did land that number 2 overall pick a couple years ago, drafted Chet, drafted Jalen Williams. But Jalen Williams was not a super high pick, if I remember, right? He was not a top 5.
Maybe 14, 17, right?
He was not. He was a low lottery pick. So it's not even they shot for the stars on that. They've traded for Caruso. They've traded for Hartenstein. I guess they drafted Josh Giddey decently high, and that helped them get Caruso. But the Thunder it's they have rebuilt through the draft, but they haven't even gotten mega lucky with top picks. Other than Chet Holmgren, they really haven't had top 3 or 4 picks.
Yeah.
It's kind of just they've done it through other ways. And I feel like too many teams now are throwing away what they have in order to kind of chase that idealistic Thunder approach. And I don't want to take anything away from the Thunder. Like they have, like Sam Presti has done an amazing job building this team, and I think he's built he has the players on there that are very capable. And I'm sure we'll talk about the Thunder in a grander scheme later on in this episode. But the Nets, like to bring this back to the Nets, they started the season and overachieved and had a good team. Like they were winning games with Cam Johnson, Cam Thomas just shooting every shot. Schroeder was playing at like borderline at all-star level, which is crazy to say. DFS wasn't really playing well, so fair enough. But like, I kind of wish they just kept this team together and just kind of said, let's see how far we can take this. Because if I'm not mistaken, back in 2018, they kind of were in a similar situation where they didn't really go into the season with the best expectations. I think that was like the D'Angelo Russell, Karis LeVert team. They didn't go in with like good at high expectations, but they wound up being better than they thought. And they just kind of let that ride out. And I'm pretty sure they made the playoffs that year. They actually snuck in as like an 8 seed. They got first rounded, obviously, but I'm pretty sure that ensuing offseason was the one where they signed Durant and Kyrie because Durant and Kyrie saw the young core in Brooklyn, and that convinced them that, like, we'd actually rather go there versus the Knicks, who just spent the season tanking and wound up at the bottom of the East and really has no future considering they didn't get the number one pick and get Zion Williamson. I'm not salty about that at all. But I would almost argue that trying to win and establishing a winning culture, even if that is just simply making the play-in or making, winning a game in the first round of the playoffs, that can actually matter. And I would almost argue that might be a better way to build a team for the future than to rely on the lottery odds. Because obviously nowadays the lottery odds are not what they used to be. It's not 25 for the first team. It's 14 flat. We saw the Hawks last year not tank. They went in. They didn't make the playoffs, right? They were a play-in team, but they didn't make the playoffs.
Play-in. Yep.
And they still wound up with the number one pick. Obviously, the odds were not in their favor, but it can still happen.
0.1% chance. Craziness.
Yeah. It's not as much of an advantage to go lose a whole season. Just ask the Detroit Pistons. They've been tanking for 5 years now, and they haven't gotten a top 3 pick once. So I almost hate to see Brooklyn tear this up because I think they could have been like a plucky team, kind of like Detroit is right now. Maybe not as good as Detroit, but they could have been a team that's right there in the mix for the Eastern Conference play-in because after the top 5 or 6 teams in the East is pretty weak. You're telling me Brooklyn with that team could not have gotten in? I don't know. I think they could have made a run.
Yeah, my thoughts on it is this. Like, maybe the Nets... Okay, first I'll say this. I kind of knew they were going the tanking route, not to be a hater, when you go back and you go get a D'Angelo Russell for Dorian Finney-Smith. Like, no hate to D'Lo. Obviously, I say this a lot. Like, I'm sure he's a cool dude. But on the Lakers, he just wasn't like I don't know if it's pressure. I don't know if you heard the quote, like, not every player can play in LA. I mean, it's a lot of expectations. You play a bad game, you're going to get absolutely destroyed on social media. Is it right? No. But it's just a lot of pressure.
Podcast, follow them.
Facts. But for me, I just think the Brooklyn Nets are in just like this weird position. Like you said, they over-exceeded expectations in the first 2 months of the NBA season. They're playing great basketball. Dennis Schroeder was playing like not all-star, but borderline putting up all-star, maybe last man picked all-star numbers. DFS was actually playing good ball too. At one point he was scoring like 12 plus a game, which is pretty impressive for him as a role player. Yeah, he was playing pretty good. Until he got traded, his role got diminished a little bit. Respectfully,
I didn't clock that, but I knew Schroeder was playing well.
Yeah, but for me, now his numbers went back down, but now he's averaging around 9.6 points, 4.2 rebounds, and 1.4 assists. But it was a little bit higher when he was on the Nets. But yeah, I just feel like I agree with you. I don't think tanking necessarily works with the new odds system. I mean, the Pistons, that was a great example. They've been playing absolutely horrible the last couple of years and can't sniff a top 3 pick to save their life, especially that Wemby draft. I know they were sick when that happened, but we know the NBA wasn't going to send Wemby to Detroit, respectfully. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't know, man. I'm not a fan of taking regardless. Just go out there and see what you're going to do. I think the worst team, you'll have the highest odds, but still doesn't guarantee you a chance to get that number 1 or even 1 through 5 pick, honestly. So, yeah, I think it's kind of, I don't know. I think it was a missed opportunity to see what Brooklyn really had. They were really entertaining to watch because there's no expectations. When you overperform and nobody in the world has expectations for you, the basketball almost feels like really fun to watch. Like, you even had times where Ben Simmons, he was kind of meshing well throughout the lines, which is crazy to say in 2025. Full-time point guard. I mean, Cam Thomas goes out there and shoots the craziest buckets. even though I know Max is not the biggest fan of him, and low key, I understand what you mean too now. Like he does a lot of just shot chucking. He's basically like a shorter Jalen Green without the athleticism, and
He's
that's
Jordan Poole. He's a taller Jordan Poole.
oh true. That's an even better example. Like yeah,
I mean,
Jordan
he's
Poole.
more athletic than Poole is.
Yeah,
And he's not quite the shooter that Poole is, but in terms of just
true.
shot chucking.
Yeah, I agree with you. But as far as assets, I think we can talk about Cam Johnson. I think he's definitely probably gonna get moved. I think that like you said, they're
100%.
waiting for the deadline. I think that's the move they wait for the deadline to get as many picks as they can. We see the reports they want like 2 something plus first round picks, which we'll see what happens. I did see what was the team? I seen them reported. What team was it? I can't remember at the moment. Oh, it was Thunder. The Thunder were actually interested, I think, in bringing him in. I have to look on X to see if it was the Thunder, but there was a certain playoff team that was looking to bring him in. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think they definitely can see what they're gonna have him. But I'm not a fan of the tanking, honestly.
And the Pistons example works on multiple levels because this offseason was the first year where the Pistons actually went in and just said, we're not going to tank. We're just going to bring in NBA players and see how good we are. And they brought in Tobias Harris and they brought in Tim Hardaway Jr.
Facts.
And now they're actually a decent team. Like they are in the play-in picture. Probably not going to be a top 6 team and lock themselves in, but they're looking like a team that's absolutely going to be in the play-in. Cade Cunningham is getting more national media attention than ever before. He's going to be an all-star almost certainly.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like a little hype around the Pistons. Like they have a little swag, they have a little mojo. They brought in JB Bickerstaff and they're actually winning games. So
shout out Omar.
It shows that like they're having more success now by trying to actually just play basketball and be good. Yeah. They're not going to be elite, but they're actually building somewhat of a culture. And who knows, maybe there will be a free agent who wants to say, Cade Cunningham showed me what he can do in that play-in game. Or, they won 2 games in the first round of the Eastern Conference playoffs. I kind of want to go there. So I think there is something to be said for that. But certainly right now, that is not what the Nets are doing, and they will probably continue to lose by 40 as long as they're doing this. Which is sad because I think they were fun before those trades. They were a good defensive team. Like they, athletic, play around the rim, good defensive squad. Jordy Fernandez showing that he can be a good NBA coach. I think they're definitely going to want to hold on to him during their rebuild.
Yep.
But that defense of the Nets, when they had Dorian Finney-Smith in there, they were able to kind of play a little bit more wing stop, was pretty good. I think that could have done something, throughout the NBA season, but 'twas not to be, unfortunately. Sean Marks, he wants that Cooper flag, and they better get it.
Facts. And just to add on to that, I made a mistake. It was not OKC. It was actually the Cavs who have been aggressively pursuing.
Oh, that would be crazy. Cam Johnson on the Cavs would actually be crazy.
That came out 3 hours ago because I seen it on my phone. But yeah, it's reported the Cavs, they want to play him alongside Darius Garland, D. Mitch, and Evan Mobley.
He would be perfect.
Allen. That would be the perfect fit. That, oh gosh, and we'll talk about that game later. They could have used the Cam Johnson versus OKC last night, low key. So
they could have used a lot more than they would have needed 18 Cam Johnsons.
True, but a little defense. Yeah, I mean, do you want to hop into OKC? Because that
we can talk about that game now. I guess we are in the National Blowout Association, so we start to go off talking about exclusively blowouts. OKC decimated Cleveland, not to the same extent that the Clippers decimated the Nets the other day, but not too far off. Beat them by, what was the final score? I'll just say 40, but
I'm pulling it up now.
If the Clippers or if the Cavs, I think the Cavs cut the lead down late with their 18th guys, but when the game was decided, it was basically 40 points. Like the Cavs got their clock cleaned and handed to them polished by the OKC Thunder without Isaiah Hartenstein and without Chet Holmgren, without their 2 best bigs. They absolutely wiped if the OKC is not the best team in the league, the Cavs are. So there was the 2 best teams in the league went at it, and OKC absolutely decimated them. So quite frankly, I'm scared about OKC long term.
Let me say this, all the people saying, "Oh, OKC, they were a fake first seed." Yeah, speak up now. Let's go back and pull up those receipts because
wasn't that you? Didn't you say they weren't going to get the first seed again this year?
I didn't think they were going to get the first seed, but they are a legit contender. I think last year, well, maybe I said that wrong. People who said they weren't legit contenders, I think, definitely need to have a second opinion. For me, I mean, they just look hard to beat. Shea, there's this one sequence where Shea literally just hit 4 or 5 buckets in a row. He just got to that dribble package, boom, hits the mid-range, 1. Comes back up the court, post is up, just old school post-up game, boom, fades off of it, another mid-range. Comes back down, gets a stop, does the same thing over and over again. Shea is, even one of the most unguardable guy in the league. He might be up there with. Well, I don't even think it's not might be. He's up there top 3 in the league right now. I mean, when he gets it going, shout out to Jalen Williams too. That was a complete steal. I looked it up. He was the 12th pick, so not even like a top 5, top 10. I mean, it's still in the lottery. But man, like just looking at the box score, Shea 40, Lou Dort 22, Jalen Williams 19, Isaiah Joe 12, Brendan Carlson 11, Alex Caruso 10. Like that's impressive. Like that whole roster.
Do you see that dunk that Caruso threw down like in the third, like towards the end of the third quarter? Like he set a little fake screen. It. He like set a fake screen for SGA at the top of the key and then just rolled to the basket. And SGA hit like this beautiful pass between the double team, and he was just wide open. Like we got Alex Caruso as a pick and roll man in the year 2025.
Reminds me of the throwback Bron and A. Bro, people don't realize it was Alex Caruso and Bron before it was Bron and AR, bro.
I will say I used to sleep on Caruso heavy. I thought he, I'm sure I wasn't the only one, but I thought he was just kind of like the meme, funny, hustle guy on the Lakers. Not that good. I kind of thought of him what I still think of Bruce Brown, which is just made by a great passer. Like, he's just kind of Bron made. He got his ring. Congrats. But he is legit built out a very good career for himself. And right now, I don't think there's a single NBA team that would not want Alex Caruso, especially on his deal. He is a extremely, extremely valuable role player. He plays his role well. He plays hard. He's unselfish. He's only going to take good shots. He's sneaky athletic. Honestly, seeing that dunk that you threw down yesterday, he can get up there. He's just the perfect fit for a team. I mean, he's a good fit for any team, quite frankly. But the fact that OKC has him is just spoils of riches at this point.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. Like looking back at Alex Caruso, like he was a huge part of that championship run. Like he's just a great defender.
We saw at the time.
Facts, yeah. I think the thing I like about Alex Caruso, like he could have a bad offensive night, whatever, but defensive wise, if you need to stop, he's gonna lock in. If you need a little rebound here or there, he's gonna lock in. He's gonna switch. He'll play you full court. Whatever you need Alex Caruso to do, he is like the literal definition of what's the phrase I want to use? Like he's like one of the best glue guys / utility guys in the league. I feel like you can put him pretty much anywhere and he'll go out there and perform. So, and he's really worked on his shot a lot. Like compared to when he was on Lakers to now, it looks a little bit more consistent. So, OKC, they just know how to build teams, man. They're doing a really great job with that. And like you said, no Chet Holmgren, no Isaiah Hartenstein, and you're dogging the twin towers over there. And Evan Mobley and Jared Allen with no legit big over 6'8" that played last night for OKC, if I'm not mistaken. I forget how tall Jalen Williams is.
Yeah, I think he's 6'9", probably.
Yeah, it looks like he's 6.
Definitely
6'9". Yeah, 6'9". Yeah.
So, I mean, you got him. And honestly, SGA has got to be like one of the smoothest, if not the smoothest guys in the league. Like just watching him, there's just a fluidity to his game. Like he is not, I mean, okay, he does definitely draw a lot of contact. I'm not going to sit here and say he's not a foul baiter. He is definitely a foul baiter. But other than that, just the way his game is just so smooth. It's not built around like rough, rugged contact. It's all about footwork. It's fluidity. It's smoothness. It's about using as little motion as possible to get the job done. And you can see, like when he wants to, he can go have 40, but he just doesn't have to every night. When they have a mostly healthy team, he can just put up 20, get 8 rebounds, 9 assists. They'll probably win by 10 every time. But when he wants to have a little fun, show out, because that game was on national TV. Surprisingly, not NBA League Pass, but when he wants to show out, he can definitely do it. So I have no doubt that he can be a 1A on that team in the playoffs and give them 35, 40, 45-point games when the going gets tough in like a Western Conference Finals or even an NBA Finals.
You know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of like two differences, but he reminds me of DeMar DeRozan, less athletic, but a better playmaker. Like they both kind of feed off that mid-range game. Yeah, they don't take the 3 a lot, but they can hit it. Like Shai's not going to go out there and take like 7 threes a game, but he is definitely capable.
Right. He's definitely way more of a ball handler than DeRozan was. And he's a good defender too. People sleep on Shai's defense. He's not like a Lou Dort, Alex Caruso, but he's up there. All right, and he'll lock you down. But he gets it. He gets a lot of steals. I think he's probably top 5 in the NBA in steals, if not higher. Yeah. And for a guard, he gets a good amount of blocks too. He's kind of like a Dwayne Wade defensive guy, where it's like he's not a lockdown defender, but he will make plays defensively. Like he will get a steal outlet on the fast break. He'll get a block if a guy tries to drive on him. He's more of like a stocks defender versus a lockdown. But still, to be an elite offensive player and to be a good defensive player is very rare.
Exactly, especially at that guard position too. But like just as far as like mid-range consistency, DeMar is like the biggest name I can think of. Like somebody who just eats off of mid-range. And it just looks clean. Yeah, and Melo. You're right, and Melo. But like last night I was watching the Kings play too, and it just reminded me of Shea, just because there's this one move DeMar did. It was like a little pivot, and then he just spun off of it, and he just got like an open layup. I was like, dang, like that's like a Shea type move, which is crazy because obviously DeMar is the OG in this situation, but their games kind of look a little bit similar in the mid-range area. Everything else obviously very different, but I'm glad that the lost art of the mid-range, it was looking kind of shaky for a little bit, Max, but I think Shea is keeping us alive, man. I love it.
Speaking of keeping alive, can we talk about the Sacramento Kings for a little bit?
Yeah. Okay, you were right. Whatever. But you also did say...
I did say that they would do worse without Mike Brown, so I'll hold the L there. But I stood on business that they are a good team. I just underestimated Doug Christie as a head coach. I didn't think Doug Christie was going to come in and hit the ground running. But I told you the Kings have a good roster.
I did too. And they were talking about on the broadcast last night. They're like, what do you think the biggest difference is between Doug Christie and Mike Brown? And then the commentators, I'm not familiar with who was covering the game. Sorry about that. But they were basically saying that Doug Christie wants to run a fast-paced, more three-point heavy offense, which makes a little bit of sense. You know, Mike Brown kind of like to slow things down, gets a bonus like to run like the hub of the offense, which they still do, but the pace just looks a lot faster. Like they were getting out on the break more. Offense didn't seem like it was kind of stagnant compared to what it was. DeMar DeRozan is not just like constantly holding the ball. Like, yeah, he gets the ball in his spot, but it's more so a lot of ball movement involved compared to what it was in the Mike Brown. No offense to Mike Brown. I just think it looks better right now. Like I couldn't watch the Kings game. Now they're playing good basketball. Like, yeah, did they blow a lead last night? Yes. But then again, it is still the Rockets. They've been playing great basketball regardless. So it was a good game. They
won the game too.
Yeah, they won too. Yeah. It was a really good game.
Honestly, it's weird because if you had told me that like if you told me that Doug Christie was going to come in and try to play a fast-paced, like 3-point heavy scheme with the Kings, I would have told you this has a sinking ship written all over it. Because when you just look at the Kings roster, outside of De'Aaron Fox, they don't have athletic, like fast-paced 3-point shooting guys. Like obviously Sabonis is not going to hit the three.
No,
DeRozan's not really going to shoot threes. Kevin Huerter's not really athletic.
I found out that Sabonis is shooting 47% from this season.
Is he really? On how many attempts?
Yes. Because I don't know. I think it's like 3 a game. But
that's more than I thought. Okay,
I remember the announcer said something about like Sabonis is leading the league in 3-point percentage. I was like, what? And I had to double check. I don't know if that's true, but still, continue. My fault.
No, I mean, fair enough. Maybe Doug Christie just saw Sabonis' 3-point potential when nobody else did, but clearly it is working. So I'm not going to sit here and say that they shouldn't do it because they're 8-2 in their last 10 and they are now above 500 and they are like I think they're the 7th seed in the West right now. They are 2.5 games back of the Clippers, so they have some ground to make up if they want to lock themselves into the playoffs. But we were talking about that team being out of the playoffs entirely 2.5 weeks ago when they fired Mike Brown. So mega credit to Doug Christie coming in and showing that he has hit the ground running. Can he keep it up? That's the question. But I think undoubtedly the Kings look better now. And that's really just kind of what my argument was like the Kings are just not, under Mike Brown, they were just not reaching their full potential. Like that roster is just straight up more talented than they were showing. Like Fox and Sabonis, even though they don't get the glitz and the glamour because they're in Sacramento, they are legitimate all-star caliber players. They weren't necessarily playing like all-stars this season, but we've seen them do that in the past. And I don't see any reason why they can't do that again. We know what DeRozan can bring. Obviously, he's later in his career, but he is still you're not asking him to do everything like he was in Chicago. He could be the third option offensively, and he can settle into that role. You still got a Kevin Huerter. You still got a Keon Ellis. These are good NBA players. Like this team, even in the West, I stood on business. I was like, they're better than their record right now. They were losing a lot of close games. And now with Doug Christie, they're winning those close games. And now all of a sudden, everyone's like, whoa, what happened to the Kings? I'm like, guys, this was just kind of who they were all along. Clearly, perhaps Mike Brown was the problem that he wasn't unlocking their full potential. But I don't think that these guys just remembered how to play basketball in the last 2.5 weeks. I think Doug Christie's just unlocked them and changed the system to where they can actually show how much talent they have. And now maybe it's like, oh, maybe you don't need to trade De'Aaron Fox. Maybe you don't need to blow this team up. It's like, people just overreact to way too much. Maybe I'm overreacting to this right now, but I believe that the Kings of the last 10 games are closer to the team that they actually are, or the team that they could be, than they were when they were 13 and 18. Now they're 21 and 20.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think shout out to Max. Obviously, he did get this take right, and I have to give you your credit there because he stood on business and he believed in it, and he was right. I think just the way I watched the Kings play basketball through Mike Brown, like this comes crazy from a team that couldn't beat them a year ago. I get that, but watching them this year, it just seemed like a kind of a drop off. They didn't seem like the offense was clicking, and maybe that was with DeRozan. Not saying DeRozan was bad or anything like that, but I don't think Mike Brown knew how to utilize him efficiently. And
I think that's a fair statement.
I
think adding DeRozan just changed the way that things needed to be, and Mike Brown just was not adjusting to it in a way that Doug Christie now has.
That's exactly right. Because last year they looked good. I mean, they looked all right, but this year it just felt like, to me, it felt like it was like a major drop off compared to last year, which it was. And maybe Mike Brown just couldn't figure out the adjustment. I mean, you could say that's happened a little bit in Lakers land with the Russell Westbrook experiment. If you can't figure out how to make somebody work on a team who's getting paid a lot of money, then it's cheaper to fire a coach than it is to get rid of the player. And that's just a fact that us Lakers fans know by heart. But I did have a question for you, Max. Since we're here, do you think you can name the top 5 3-point percentage players in the NBA right now?
Okay, well, you gave me a little leg up. I would not have got Sabonis, but Sabonis.
Yep. Okay.
Gotta be Jokic still.
Yep.
I think Taurean Prince is still up there.
Yep.
Now we're kind of getting. Now we're really dropping off.
No, but I think you're gonna cook.
Is Peyton Pritchard on there?
He is not top 5.
Okay, I know Anthony
He's
Edwards
not top 10.
Top 5 in volume. I don't think he's top 5 percentage. Durant, maybe?
No, he's not up there either.
Okay. Gosh, I knew those guys. Curry.
Durant is not even top 20. Curry is not anywhere near on this list, sadly.
All right, I'll throw one more name out because after that, I think I'm cooked.
Okay.
AJ Green.
No.
Dang it.
Okay,
all right.
I'll tell you.
Did I get the top 3 though?
You got the top 2, and then skip 1, you have Prince. Okay. But who's in between there is actually on another team that's playing really good this season that we talked about, the Memphis Grizzlies, and it's Luke Kennard at number 3.
Oh, I could have got Luke Kennard.
He's made 83s this. Well, no. He's made 83s this season. He's shooting 44%. So definitely a lot of volume plus a good percentage compared to other guys on this list.
Luke is legit.
And number 5, he's on a team. He's trapped on a team because he makes too much money. And you know who it is after I said that.
He's trapped on a team because he makes too much money. Oh, Zach LaVine.
Yep.
Zach LaVine. Oh, I should have said Zach LaVine.
He is shooting a whopping.
Zach LaVine has been on a tear lately. He's
going crazy.
What is he at? Like 30 points in like 6 straight games or something crazy like that. Like LaVine's kind of balling.
46% from 3. So yeah, and 117 made. He actually has. No. I'm sorry, that's wrong. No. That's right. He has 117 made. That's the highest in the top 5 made.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy. So yeah.
Do you know who's actually attempted the most threes this game this season? I'm pretty sure.
Oh, that is a good question. I think it's
attempted the most.
Norman Powell at 261 that I can see right now. That's just in the top 10. I can scroll down some more.
Per game.
And he's made
per game.
Oh, per game, like attempted per game.
Maybe this is wrong, but I'm pretty sure I saw somewhere that it's Anthony Edwards.
I think you're right. Dang, they're not giving me the per on NBA.com per game.
It's either Powell or Edwards, I think. But
I think it is. I think it is
this year, which I don't like personally.
Me either. But remember, he started complaining. No offense. He started talking about how he was getting double teamed and the game's so much harder right now in his 20s.
Dude, that was a crazy quote. Him being
that was insane, bro.
That's literally like some YMCA pickup basketball. Like, why are you double teaming me?
Devin Booker.
Of course we're gonna double team you. Y'all traded away Cat. We don't respect Julius Randle anymore. Of course we're gonna double team you.
It's not fair, Max. I want to go out there and get an easy 45 in the rec, Max. They keep double teaming me. What am I supposed to do?
Listen, and Edwards and Omar have the same problems.
That's crazy.
Anthony Edwards, I don't know what to tell you, man. When you're good, you're gonna get double teams. He likes playing into the Michael Jordan comparison. I'm pretty sure. I'm not old enough to have watched him play. Pretty sure Michael Jordan got double teamed a good bit. So I think you just gotta figure that one out for yourself, buddy.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, bro. That That quote was absolutely insane. I'm like, bro, you are not top 5. I've never said that yet. He's top something. It's not 5 yet.
Top 12.
Top 12, I'll say. I'll give you top 12. I don't. It's a lot of great players in the NBA. Not saying Ant's not one of them, but there's just other guys doing a lot of work out there and not complaining about getting double teamed respectfully.
Now I will give him. I'll give him a little bit of slack. Not much. Like,
true.
Here's all the slack I can cut. I'm cutting him like this much.
An Omar level of slack.
Wow.
Sorry.
I miss you, Omar.
I miss you, Omar.
That's crazy. He does not have the help around him that some of those other top guys have. Like, Jokic won't get double teamed because he has a Jamal Murray and a Michael Porter Jr. And also he's just a great passer. Yep. You know, you're not going to double team a Durant like he has a Booker. You're not going to double team an SGA because he has Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, and etc. You couldn't. Well, it was a lot harder to double team Ant when they had Karl Anthony Towns. Now I feel like they don't. You never respect Gobert off that. You can let him do whatever. And now that Julius Randle, you're kind of like, well, we can kind of let him beat us. Let's just go make sure Ant doesn't have 40. And then at that point, you're leaving like 38-year-old Mike Conley open for 3, which I think most teams would take. Versus Ant Edwards going full steam downhill trying to posterize you.
Okay, I did find that attempt number for Ant. He's sitting at 10 attempts a game, bro.
Like,
but he's shooting
not be.
He's shooting 42% from 3 though. On 10 attempts a game. It is kind of crazy. It is crazy. It is actually insane.
Okay, 7 a game. Okay, 10?
Wait.
10 a game should be – that's prime Steph Curry numbers. I understand he's shooting a good percentage. He is not prime Steph Curry.
He's shooting for him and Cat. Last year, he was shooting about 6.7. So that's a pretty big jump. That's a pretty big jump.
6 to like 7.5. That should be Ant's range.
But honestly, Max, something I didn't notice is he really has always attempted a decent amount. Like his rookie year, he attempted 7.2 a game, then 8.4, then 7.3, 6.7. And then this year, 9.9, obviously way bigger than his previous years.
Average out for 4 to 5 years, you're sitting at like 7-ish a game, 7.5.
Yep, 7.7.
I think that's a little more reasonable. Like 10, that is kind of elite shot chucking.
That is crazy, yeah. And it's like,
I understand he has to do a lot to help the Timberwolves team win, but at some point, you got to reel it. Yeah, 10 is crazy.
I'm trying to think because, like, that's a lot of shots, bro. Like, especially for a super athletic guy. Like, he can get to the mid-range. He can dunk it. I mean, you can even pass that thing if you got to. But 10 3 to me, when he's scoring like 25 plus, he's shooting 10 threes plus probably like, how many shots up does he put up a game, though? That's the thing.
He probably shoots like, 22 a game?
Yep, 20.2 a game. So half of his shots are threes.
That shouldn't be.
That's
maybe a third of his shots. If he's shooting, I think like an ideal for Ant is like 7 to 7.5 threes, shooting 21 or 22 times a game. Then you're like, okay, 30 of your shots are threes. You know, that's about what you would want because he's a good shooter. I'm not trying to say he's not a good shooter. Obviously, you can't shoot 42% on that high volume if you're not a good 3-point shooter. But at some point, we have to cut this off and say, all right, this is like Damian Lillard 2020, Steph Curry 2015 numbers. Like,
I agree with you. I agree with you. And like kind of, oh damn, my thing froze. I was pulling up stats. I wanted to actually, since we're talking about stats, we're talking about numbers. You brought his name up before. I kind of wanted to get your perspective on, I mean, one of the hottest bigs in the league. Pause. Karl Anthony Towns right now. He's been playing absolutely crazy. And shout out to Tibbs, because I feel like obviously it takes time to adjust. The first couple games, like I said to Omar too, I just didn't think he was being used right. Like Karl Anthony Towns is a guy you have to put on the perimeter. And I know Tibbs, he's a big post-up guy, which Karl Anthony Towns is still doing. But he realized, hey, you know, this big dude on my team, he actually might be or is our best 3-point shooter. So let's get him out there. And once that happened, plus, I mean, the surge in rebounding has been absolutely insane. What happens when Rudy Gobert is not hogging on the rebounds? You get a cat double machine. So what's your thoughts on Karl Anthony Towns and like his adjustment this season?
I'll be so honest. Like I was a proponent. I'm pretty sure I went on this show and said it was a good trade for the Knicks. Like right after it happened, I did not expect Karl Anthony Towns to be as good as he has been for this Knicks team. The bag that he has offensively, maybe he was showing this in Minnesota and I was just sleeping, but he is so incredibly skilled at the game. Like you said, he can post up. He can drive. He can pump fake a three and drive to the basket off the dribble. He has footwork. He has the ability to finish through contact. He can hit off dribble mid ranges, off dribble threes. He's not good at like elite at off dribble threes by any stretch of the imagination, but he can hit them. He is a much better passer than I thought. Like you see him a lot of times in the post. He does the exact thing, not to bring this back to Julius Randle like I always do, but he does the thing that Julius Randle never did, which is the second that he sees help coming, he gets rid of the ball. He doesn't wait for the help to come and make his job harder and then have to throw like a bailout pass. He's a very willing and able passer, which I think helps, just makes him a lot harder to double team when he is posting up. I think he said he inhales rebounds like his life depends on it. Double machine. I think he's going to be an all-star starter. It seems like
for sure
the fans are voting him. He's top 3 in all-star in fan votes. I don't think there's been a center in the Eastern Conference better than him all season. I think a lot of people honestly agree on that. It's not crazy to say that he's playing like a top 15 player in the NBA right now, which is not what I expected.
Go ahead and say you can say he's playing like an MVP. I wouldn't even be mad. I know that. Look,
I would pump the brakes on that. I don't think he should be top 5 in MVP voting.
Look on the perspective, but you got to think about the drop off though of MVP voting. Like obviously you have Luka. Well, not even Luka anymore. He can't get it. You have Shea. You have Jokic, and then you have Giannis. I think those are the big 3. Then after that, I think that's where the creativity kind of kicks in. So he could be top 5. Like, who's the other 2 you put in there right now? If he's not,
I mean, I think you got to respect Donovan Mitchell and Jason Tatum.
I forgot about Tatum. That's crazy how you raised Tatum. My bad, Tatum.
Listen, I'm a Tatum hater.
My bad.
They still have a better record. Tatum is still the best player on that team. Donovan Mitchell is the best player on that Cavs team. That is a top 2 team in the NBA. Like, I will pump the brakes on a cat top 5 in MVP vote. He's not quite there yet, but still, he is everything that we could have expected as Knicks fans and more. And I'm honestly kind of a proponent of, I like when he posts up. I like when he drives. He's 7 foot. And he has such a great touch around the basket. Like he hit so many like turnaround post hooks, offensive rebound putbacks, fadeaways over defenders. Like he has a great post back. Probably one of the better post players we have in the NBA, considering no one posts up anymore. It is kind of a lost art, but Cat is one of the few. He's like can't remember a player on the Knicks other than Carmelo Anthony. I cannot remember a big on the Knicks that legitimately had a post game that you could throw the ball to down low and get a bucket almost every time. And he's an elite foul shooter too. You can't foul him because he shoots 86, 85 from the line. He's very good. So I know he's dealing with a thumb injury right now. Yeah. I think it's very minor, day-to-day, like a bone chip. They said he should be able to play through it.
It's been a crazy year for him. And the stats don't lie. He's having a lot of career highs. This is his second highest in points per game. First was at 26.5, and that was in 2019-2020. This year, he's put up 25.4. But rebounding, as I was saying before, he's never acted like this before. That's the most shocking thing I feel like about Karl-Anthony Towns. Well, actually, I take that back. When he was in Minnesota, was his best rebounding year. He was putting up 12.4 with 24 points per game. This year, he is putting up. Oh no, I am still right. He's putting up 13.9. Sorry,
I was gonna say he's up there.
Yeah, 13.9 rebounds per game is absolutely insane. I was looking at his defensive rebounds. I was looking at the wrong stat for a second, but yeah, 13.9. That's impressive. I think the only other person probably putting up, well, only 2 other people probably putting up that high is Sabonis and Jokic from my just first early on thoughts.
Yeah, so I know Sabonis had a 28 rebound game the other day, so that definitely that juiced the numbers up.
He's had a couple of 2020 games too, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, Karl-Anthony Towns, man, he's been balling out, man. So credit to the Knicks for getting him right, and he's been freed from the. Yeah, true. I mean, for a dude who stayed and preached loyalty, like Karl-Anthony Towns was loyal to Minnesota. I don't think people really realize that. Like he could have left. He had opportunities to leave. Like he's a 23 point per game scorer, like on his career average. Like he could have easily left that first year after he got that contract and went to any other team and been a big for them. So shout out to the Knicks for seeing his value and taking him from Minnesota. And I think he's one of those players who fit in the Garden. Like same line that works with LA. Like not everybody can play in LA. Not everyone can go play in the Garden and play good basketball. So Karl-Anthony Towns has embraced it. He's looking like a top 5 big in the league. So kudos to him, respect for that. And he is definitely the best center right now in the Eastern Conference. So he should be a starter. So shout out to Karl-Anthony Towns.
And the funny thing is, the day we're recording this, the Knicks are actually playing the Timberwolves tonight at the Garden.
No way. Is he playing?
Towns, I would have to imagine he'll play. I mean, he's day to day, so I don't know if he'll be out there. I know DiVincenzo's not playing. He's out with some injury. I want to say it's a foot. I could be totally wrong, but I'm pretty sure he will not play in tonight's game. As far as I'm aware, Julius Randle should be out there, so we'll see the kind of reception he gets at the Garden. By the time you guys see this, it'll be the day after the game's already over. So hopefully that was a good game. Hopefully my next one. But it is funny that the day we're recording this, they actually will be playing tonight.
That is crazy. And as someone who needs the Timberwolves to fail for us to succeed in the West, please take care of his tonight, Max and the Knicks.
Yeah, the Timberwolves, they're just kind of there, right? Like they don't look like the team that they were last year. Like they're 2 games over 500. It feels like they're very up and down. I mean, they are 5-5 in their last 10 games, so I think that is just kind of the mark of a very up and down, inconsistent team. Some nights they look really good, and Edwards is doing his thing. Some nights you really see the lack of Karl-Anthony Towns offensively mean something. So
yeah,
I think they'll be in the playoffs one way or the other. Am I confident about them being a top 6 seed? Probably not. I don't even know if they're better than the Clippers or the Kings right now, if we're being straight up honest. Like the Clippers are getting Kawhi Leonard back. He's starting to play, which I guess we should talk about. I don't think we've talked about Kawhi coming back on this show yet.
No, I don't think we have, but he did have a good game on that blowout. I think he had like 20.
Yeah, he's had some solid games. He's not Kawhi-esque. You can tell it's kind of a slow and steady progression back. I don't think they're not rushing him into playing 40 minutes like he would if he was playing.
You want to see Kawhi? Watch the Lakers game on Sunday. He'll be back. It's just something.
True, that could be the game where he really shows
40
out.
Points, not missing.
Maybe that
will
be the Kawhi return game, but he is now back. He's ramping it back up. I know he took a game or two off to help his family with the wildfires as well in Los Angeles. So that kind of obviously put a dent in that. And I guess while we're on the topic, obviously our thoughts are with everyone who is affected by those wildfires right now. We probably should open the show with that. That's my bad, but especially as, we do have a resident Lakers fan here in this podcast. I know JJ Redick lost his house to the fire among hundreds, probably thousands of other people, lost property, lost basically a lot of their lives. So thoughts and prayers are with them as always, definitely from the BTB podcast. I know Omar obviously feels the same as well.
Yeah, and it's like crazy though, like to pivot to that, it was kind of sad because I watched that whole JJ Redick press conference and he was basically talking about how like it took a lot of decision making to come to LA. He talked about how like they found a wonderful community, like everything to the rec center in the community, like the different people there, neighbors and stuff like that. And they found a good place to call home. And then you get there, then obviously the fire happens. Like people don't understand, like, and he made it very clear, like, yes, obviously we're in a better place financially than a lot of people, but there's stuff that they lost in the fire they're never gonna get back. Like photos, memories, stuff like that. Like I think he talked about like his kid had like this art project he had made and he had it hanging on the wall. Like he was like, that's something like we'll never get that back. So like seeing him talk about that and like seeing that part of him and how much he cares about the community. He said like every day he went to like that rec center and like spend time with all the kids over there. So it's like obviously life is bigger than basketball. Like, this is affecting not only NBA players, but he made it clear like it's affecting everybody there. And shout out to all the California teams coming together and donating like a couple $1 million to help the efforts too. That was huge.
Yeah.
Like all the teams, all the organizations, stuff like that in LA basically made like a $3-4 million fund plus. So shout out to them for that. But yeah, I feel
it was
for
like
JJ Redick, man. Yeah, 8 million. Actually, yeah, way more than that. So yeah. JJ Redick, man, Lakers community is with you, man. Win, lose, or draw. It is very sad. We did have some shout out to Jake, Alex, Allen. They kind of around the area, but they didn't get affected. Thankfully, so that was good to hear.
That's good.
But yeah, it was just crazy time for LA people in general, and prayers out for you guys. And yeah, I'm gonna make sure we put that link in the chat too, like the donation link too. So we'll put that in the chat.
Yes, that will be at the top of the description.
Wants to contribute, feel free to do that as well.
Absolutely. And I know obviously those games did get postponed, rightfully so. I think for sure the right call by the NBA. Don't know how that's gonna play into scheduling later on, but obviously those moments are bigger than basketball. So good call to go ahead and postpone those games, I'd say.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree with that. But kind of like pivoting back to Kawhi, I think it's going to take a little time, like you said. Obviously, coming off the injury he had, it's a little bit hard to manage, especially, I mean, we all seen like the big lawsuit that came out early in the year talking about how much mismanagement there has been with Kawhi Leonard injuries and how the Clippers, they say, hey, you're healthy, go out there and play. And he really hadn't healed any of those injuries. So even seeing him play now is really impressive to me. And that's why I never like the whole street clothes, all that stuff, arguments about players. Like, because sometimes you just never know like how serious the injury is.
Yeah.
So kudos to him coming
The
back. I think
doctors
that's
clearly
the
didn't
best
know.
part. Yeah, true.
Or if we're going to be honest, they probably knew, just probably didn't care.
No, that is probably a fact. Yeah. They're like, you know what? We want to win. And they didn't win. And Kawhi got hurt
They're team
worse.
doctors. They're not
Yeah.
paid to be doctors. They're paid to be part of the team. So,
And that's so, how do you feel about that though, Max? Like, okay, look, better question. How do you punish that, like, in a league? Like, if you have these reports come out, obviously you have to confirm everything. Obviously, innocent until proven guilty. But, like, if you do confirm that they were lying to Kawhi Leonard and it's on paper, there's documents proving that he wasn't healthy, like, how do you handle that if you're Adam Silver? Like, is there suspensions, like, out the league? Like, because I know we have it for players and stuff like that. What about medical staff? So, like, that's a lot to manage.
It's a good question. You know me, I'm kind of ruler with an iron fist, Adam Silver. When I put my NBA commissioner hat on, I like setting a precedent. If that's me and I'm in charge of this decision, I'm banning that medical staff. You're never allowed. You're not even allowed to come back to an NBA game. You can't. Well, maybe you can sit in the stands, but you're never working for the NBA again. Period. You're getting the Jonte Porter lifelong ban. And I would tank the Clippers a hefty fine, probably maybe some draft picks too. I might throw some draft capital in there because at the core of this sport, obviously the main core, which is what the NBA is most concerned about, is integrity of games, not points fixing, shot fixing, the Jonte Porter stuff. But the layer beyond that, like the one beyond that core, is the players have to trust that the team will ultimately have their best medical interests in mind and that the team is being honest with them. In the same way that players have to trust that when they sign a contract, they will get paid that amount of money and that the conditions of the contract will be adhered to. You have to be able to trust that the medical staff is looking out for your health first, primarily beyond basketball. Like, obviously, you want to play. They want you to play. Like, there can be that understanding. But there should not ever be a situation where Kawhi Leonard is having to doubt what these team doctors are telling about his own injury. So I would come down with the heavy Thor hammer if this is proven to be true. But that's just me. I'm also the same guy that would have kicked Draymond Green out the league entirely last year. So take my word with a grain of salt.
No, I'm gonna double down with you, man. Like, we're talking about NBA careers. Like, we're talking about like team doctors. That's, as far as trust level, like, those might be they have to be the most trusted players. Well, not players. They have to be the most trusted people in the organization. Besides, I would probably say like the front office in general. Like, these are the people who are saying, hey, you're healthy enough to go out there and play, or hey, you don't have any serious medical conditions. Like, it's a lot. Like, just random example. Like, especially you got to praise medical staffs who find different things. Like the whole Chris Bosh. Oh, I said Bosh. Sorry, Chris Bosh. I believe it was clots, right? Blood clots he had. They found that was huge. Even the Bronny staff, the coaching staff that was, well, not the training staff who was able to kind of identify what happened and help him out during those tough situations. That's huge. So it's a lot of trust. Like, we're talking about, like, I don't want to make it sound like super serious, but it is. Like, in some situations, it could be life or death on the most extreme cases. Other situations, we're talking about guys' livelihoods. Like, you're fine. Go out there and play. While you have like a torn ligament in your leg, just walk it off. It's fine. Like, they're taking your word for that. So, shout out to Kawhi for even coming back healthy. I'm with you, Max. You're not. I'm probably you're not coming to him. You're not gonna watch our game anymore. You can watch it on TV. I might even ban our emails from League Pass. Maybe a little bit too extreme. I get, but no. All seriousness, they wouldn't be in the NBA. You can't ever join another coaching staff ever. So that's how it would be.
Yeah, I know. I also know years ago, Bill Walton lost a large chunk of his career and suffered many years from injuries because I believe it was the Portland Trailblazers staff repeatedly would tell him even though he was having an intense pain in his foot, which would later they would find out was like just major structural damage. They would tell him that he was fine, go out and play. You're overthinking it, Yeah. And then it got to the point where the pain was so bad, they literally injected him with they injected his foot with a foot-long needle and literally snapped his bone in half and broke his foot.
Crazy.
And I know there was a bunch of lawsuits around that. This was in the 70s. The NBA was the Wild West back then. I know there was like a bunch of lawsuits and counter lawsuits. I don't know if anything ever got done, but Walton had you know, he lost out on many years of his prime because of medical incompetence. So it can literally derail a career in his life. Like, he wound up having so many surgeries on that foot. He probably would have needed a good amount anyways, but these players are people. They're going to have careers beyond the NBA. Like, ACLs are not insignificant pieces of the human body. Kawhi Leonard could have long-lasting implications from medical malpractice surrounding his knee, his ankle, his leg. Like that, you know, obviously I'm hoping he doesn't. The fact that he's out there playing now is good, but you can really screw with a person's life, not an NBA player's life, a person's life with medical malpractice. So that has to be the first and foremost part of that's a foundational pillar of the game. Because if you get to the point where the players aren't trusting their own staff, at that point, all bets are off.
Yeah, I agree with you. And like you said, after basketball, it reminds me of like this quote like Jimmy Butler had, shout out to the starting five. He talked about like how much work he puts in like during his off days, like rest, relaxation, stretching, working out his body. It's all to prepare him for after basketball's done. Like, he's like, I want to play with my kids. I'm going to be able to run around, like have a good body. Same with LeBron and Savannah. She said that she wants to make sure that Bron can have a life outside of basketball. Like, he's not having all these injuries. So that's why, I mean, you see the jokes about him spending $1 million on his body a year. I mean, it's just to make sure that he's healthy. Like, obviously basketball it's a big part, but in the grand scheme of things, it's kind of a smaller chapter of their life compared to what comes after. So you definitely don't want to be part of the reason why they can't run around with their grandkids or kids or go out and enjoy even a walk on the beach without discomfort that could have been avoided. So I totally agree with you, man. Like, those guys should be cooked up, bro. Out the league, respectfully.
Yeah. And speaking of Jimmy Butler, Omar's favorite player, he is due to return tonight. Again, we're recording this on Friday, January 17th, 2025, the day of the return of Jimmy Butler after his 7-game suspension. It looks like he's going to play. Like, he's not on the injury report. It seems like his intent is to play until he gets traded or until the deadline. And past that, I don't really know, but he is apparently coming back. So everyone who said he'd never play another game as a Miami Heat looks like you're wrong, unless the breaking news drops in the next 6 hours.
Bro, I was about to say, like, if I get that news, because I did see the report about how him and Pat Riley are butting heads, but it's Pat. We all know, like, this is how people don't realize, like, this is how it works. Like, if Pat's like, okay, Pat has a certain idea of what value is for what he's building, and if you don't fit that piece, you're not balling like the 80s type vibes or how he knows. See, the problem with old heads is, no offense, they have an idea of how things should work just because of what they experience. But they have to realize, like, the game has progressed. People change. Things change. Systems change. And Pat Riley, I'm going to say, shout out to Phil Jackson at times. Even, you know, like, at times that triangle was not triangling in New York. Like, people have to realize, like, you have to grow out of these different phases. And I don't think Pat Riley understands that. Like, he's not a guy to just pay you just to pay you. And I think Jimmy Butler felt like he did enough to get paid and stay here for a long time. And they're just not on the same page. So I hope he plays tonight. I have a really, like you said, I don't see why he shouldn't play. But I did also see, like, that. I know you seen the report a couple days ago about how initially Pat Riley wanted to, like, extend the suspension, which obviously didn't happen in the next couple days either. So it's very weird activity, man.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time we saw something get this bad where it's literally getting suspended for. I can't remember the last time a team suspended their own player for more than one game. Like, I know the Pelicans suspended Zion for being late for a team play, but that was one game. Like, 7 games, that's 2 weeks of action. Like, they wanted to send a message. Clearly, Pat Riley wanted to send an even harsher message, but they didn't want to go on that route. But I don't know. I just think it's also silly because Miami's not a bad team. Like, genuinely, obviously, they're not on the level of a New York, a Cleveland, a Boston. I say they're a top 5, at least top 6 team in the East right now. And I feel like it's a shame that instead of focusing on making this good team a great team and trying to find that missing piece at the trade deadline, like trying to pull it, this team reminds me a lot of the Dallas Mavericks last year. Like, a good team leading up to the deadline, not without their faults, but with the opportunity to address those faults and make a deep run. Like, if they could have a trade deadline like the Mavericks had last year, like, be active, be buyers, but don't necessarily go for, like, the big splash moves. Like, bring in a Daniel Gafford, get rid of a Grant Williams, you know, bring in, oh gosh, who else did the Mavericks get at the deadline last year? I'm blanking. They got Gafford and someone else, right?
Oh, PJ.
PJ Washington, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they got Gafford and PJ Washington. Like, bring in those guys, make those kind of moves. I feel like with those kind of like borderline bench player start like type acquisitions for Miami, they could contend in the East again. They've done more with less. Like this core of Jimmy, Bam, and Tyler Hero have made unexpected playoff runs as recently as like 2 years ago.
Yeah,
you bring a good team around them, I think they could contend. So in my mind, it's a shame that now the narrative is they have to be sellers and try and get rid of Jimmy Butler, retool around them. I understand that they risk losing him in the offseason for nothing. And at this point, it looks like even if the Heat were willing to offer him a pay cut, he might not even take it. But this could be your last real chance with Jimmy Butler to make a run. So I feel like if you want any chance of keeping him long-term, you have to go all in, show him that you are willing to be buyers, put players around him instead of trying to work against him, work with him, show you that they can still be a good team and say, we're committed to right now. We're going to try and extend your window in Miami as long as possible. And then maybe he will stay and you can remend that relationship. So it's just, at this point, maybe that's just wishful thinking. Maybe that relationship between him and Riley is just deteriorated too much for that to ever happen. But I think if you could go back 2 months, if you're Miami, see where you're at now, see how bad it's gotten. You're just, instead of getting on the phone yelling at Jimmy for missing games, you're getting on the phone trying to acquire players and trying to make a run that way instead of, being mad at the guy who dragged you to 2 finals.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I think it definitely is a little bit concerning because they're not a bad team. Like they're sitting at 20 and 19.
People act like they're like the 10th seed. They're the
exactly.
15th?
Well, technically they're the 8th, but
they're the 8th seed right now. Are they that low, man?
Yeah, but it's like Pacers start playing Pacers basketball. They're 23 and 19 now. Hawks are 21 and 18. Or no, Hawks are 21 and 19, and Heat are 20 and 19.
They're 2 games back from 4. You really need to overreact right now. If they're not a top 3 team, could they end this year 4 or 5? Easily. I
will say, though, shout out to the East this year for actually competing. No offense. Like, for once, it's a little bit more uncertain 5 through 10. I'll say 5 through 9. I'm not putting the Bulls in there. Sorry.
I don't know.
I mean, they're at 18. Like, they're 3 games back from 9th, basically. So it's kind of like hard for them to get back in the race. But go ahead.
I think the East is just very top heavy. Like they're like the Cavs, Celtics, Knicks are the clear front runners, the clear top 3. Like I don't think there's any real conference finals contenders outside of those 3 teams. And then it's like the Magic are good, the Bucks are good, Miami is good. Maybe I'd say Indiana's good. That's borderline. But past that, I'm not looking at any of these other teams as like real contenders. Like I know the Hawks are the 7th seed. I'm not looking at them as contenders. I'm not looking at Detroit as a real contender. Obviously, I'm not looking at Chicago. Philly, maybe if they could get their injury luck together, but at this point, it just looks less and less likely by the day. With McCain out for the season,
what if
Philly on their pick, by the way? 4 games.
Is Philly on their pick?
It's a good question. I would imagine not because of the Harden trade, maybe.
True, I think. But if they did, things get a little interesting. But
I forget. I don't know. If you commit to a tank, Embiid's out the door.
No, but I'm saying like not necessarily a tank, but think about like the Pelicans. They didn't tank. They just got hit with injuries. So did the Sixers. Like they could be like, I don't think they're going to fall that far. But I mean, Embiid, that report said he's out for 7 to 10 days again. So
he plays he'll play 2 games and then miss another 10. Play 1, miss 2. Play 1, miss 5. I don't know.
I don't want to misquote, so I'll pull it up. I have it pinned right here.
And then Paul George. I don't know what happened to Paul George.
Did you see that quote too? You said something about he was bored playing center. I'm like, oh, okay, buddy. And then next game he got cooked by I forgot who it was. Maybe it was Scotty Barnes. And then the comments were saying, "Are you still bored now?" Okay, here it is. Sham says this was 2 hours ago. Joel Embiid, not even bad. Joel Embiid will be reevaluated in 7 to 10 days. He will receive treatment to address swelling in the left knee. So he's kind of
out. Sixers medical staff better be getting paid overtime.
Yeah. It's and then obviously Jared McCain. Good thing. Well, update on Jared McCain. Positive. His surgery is going well, progressing well. He's out of the crutches, which is good. So he's making a recovery. He's not playing for the rest of the season, which sucks, but I am glad to see that everything went well with his surgery. So just a quick shout out.
Yeah. We talked enough about Philly on this show. We're not going to beat a dead horse.
Yeah.
But, man, they got Tyrese Maxey, and that's about it. Justin Edwards seems decent, but it's a rough existence out there right now.
Oh, and what's his name? They signed he's been kind of nice.
Yabu's been solid. He's not winning them a title by himself, but
no, not at all. But I'll say I'll give my credit there. He's been a good pickup, good role player for them. So shout out to him.
He's one of the few Sixers that I would say gets a passing grade this season, where you're like, he's doing a good job. He's doing what you expect. Who would have known
the fate of the Sixers would be in his hand and Tyrese Maxey.
You see that lineup they rolled out a couple days ago when they sat out Maxey, George, and Embiid, and they ran out like Reggie Jackson, Eric Gordon, Ricky Council, Yabu, and like I forget who the other guy was.
What Andre Drummond? I'm assuming had to be in there, or was he hurt?
No, it wasn't Drummond.
Bro, what?
Reggie Jackson, Eric Gordon. Maybe it was Justin Edwards.
What game it was? I could probably look it
up. Monday's game. Okay. No. Tuesday's game. I think.
I'll find it real
quick. Tuesday's game. Who they run out in that starting line? Because they rested all three of their guys. I think Drummond was out too, or maybe they just didn't start him. They ran a crazy lineup.
All right, let me see. So that'd be like 14th.
I think it was the 14th. It was the day before they played the Knicks. They played the Knicks on Wednesday. So
all right, let's see. Box score. 76ers. Reggie Jackson, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, Reggie Jackson, Eric Gordon, Yabusele. How do you say his name again? Yabusele, Kelly Oubre, and Ricky Council.
I forgot the best player in that lineup. That's me. I forgot the best player, the carry.
Wow. And Justin Edwards ended up having the best game for them, 25 off the bench.
Justin Edwards kind of, I'll give him a passing grade too. He's been good. He's been good in these games without Maxey and B not being there. He's been solid.
Jeff Godwin Jr. actually had a good game too off the bench. He had 18 off.
Shout out Jeff Godwin Jr.
Yeah, shout out to him, man. Sixers. You're right. We spent too much time on the Sixers. Shout out to the Sixers. Y'all do what you do. Cool. Try. Stay healthy.
As we're wrapping this show up, bro, do you have any final takes for the day? Anything else? Any other players you'd like to shout out, good or bad? We did a lot of shouting out for bad this episode. I feel bad, but
yeah, I will say I want to give another shameless shout out to Mr. Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks. I agree with you. I don't think that they are championship contenders. I don't think that. I think they still are missing a star caliber player. But I will say, shout out to Trae Young. He's had some crazy games in the last couple of weeks. I mean, this season, scoring went down a little bit, but that game winner, full court. Woo.
Half court.
Oh, half court. My bad. But half court. And like, I don't know. Obviously, I don't want to use the word luck, but it was a cool shot. Shot.
I'm pretty sure. Trae Young. I heard that he was the first player in NBA history to have 20 points, 20 assists. Did he have 20 assists that game, I think? I think he did, right? He had a 20-20 which is crazy, first of all. I think he's the first player in NBA history to have 20 points, 20 assists, and hit a game winner.
That's actually crazy.
I thought that like Rondo would have done that at least once, but I guess he probably didn't have the game winner.
Let's Trae Young.
I mean, it's a pretty niche stat. Like, I'll give you that. At some point, you're slicing the bread pretty thin on these stats. But, he did what he had to do. It's just the fact that it took them that long to beat the Jazz without John Collins probably doesn't bode well for the Hawks as a team. But, hey, it was a really cool moment. So, shout out Trae Young.
No, I agree with you.
He deserves to be an all-star, 100%. If he's not on the all-star team, that is a crime. I think he will be, but he should definitely be there.
Yeah, I agree. And it sucks, too, because, like, Trae Young, I don't think he made it last year, which was – unless it was a replacement?
Let me look that up.
A replacement. But I know he didn't get voted into it. I think he was maybe in a replacement, or maybe he wasn't.
Trae Young last year was not an all. No, he was an all-star.
Okay, so he must have been.
He wasn't the year before that. He's been an all-star every other year, actually. Not in his rookie year, made it his second year, missed it his third, made it his fourth, missed it his fifth, made it his sixth. So he's actually due to miss.
Okay, cool. Year. All right, so I'm counting here. That's 1, 2. This season so far, he has 3 20-20 plus games, which is actually
I'm guessing
pretty
none
impressive.
of them with rebounds.
No. I don't
He
even know
might
if
have
he's ever had a
24
triple double. I don't know if he's ever had a triple double. That's a good question too.
Oh, he surely has, right? Let me also
Maybe.
see.
Yeah, has he? Check that out for me. Maybe he has.
He definitely has. I'd say he probably has multiple. He has 3 career triple doubles.
Okay, cool. Bet. I
mean, look, he's gonna get rebounds eventually.
Hey, I mean, yeah, maybe they felt bad. Hey Trey, go get this board. We got you, buddy. We'll box out for you.
Go get you one.
Facts, but yeah, I just say nothing crazy in particular about the spotlight or shout out. Just Trae Young. He's been playing some cool basketball this season. And Dyson Daniels, best guard defender in the league. Oh, wait. Last question for you. I seen this online. I feel like this is a perfect way to close. I can't remember who it was. It was a basketball player talking on a podcast. I forget who it was. I'm sorry, guys. Y'all will find out in the comments. You'll remind me. Do you think the Defensive Player of the Year award should be split up into guards and bigs?
That. I forget who said it. Oh gosh, it was a guard. I'm pretty sure it was a guard. Was it Jaylen Brown?
Oh, it was. I think it was Jaylen, or at least I think Jaylen Brown commented on it and said yes or something.
Maybe it was Jaylen Brown who commented on it.
Yeah. If you think about it,
I don't think it should. I just think that we as voters need to spread it more evenly between guards and bigs. Like, I don't think giving the award to 2 feels like it dilutes it a little too much. I don't think that's the solution. I think the solution is just being more objective and looking beyond just straight up blocks per game and rebound per game numbers.
Yes.
And be able to see an actual player's impact. Because there are some years where, like, Rudy Gobert should have been the Defensive Player of the Year. Like,
do you think rebounds should count in Defensive Player of the Year?
Deserved it. But the fact that Drew Holiday has never won it in his career is a shame. And the fact that Marcus Smart only won it once. Like, we have to acknowledge and appreciate these guards and wings who maybe don't have the counting stats that a big man who gets a lot of blocks will get, but should absolutely receive love for Defensive Player of the Year. Like, I think just more objective, more nuanced voting would solve this problem versus just giving it to 2 different people and then it's diluted and it would feel weird now.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's hard to do it now, like you said, just because some things are hard to implement later on in the history of the game. Like like I hate those little Eastern Conference MVP or whatever, Western Conference MVP. Like it just seems,
I don't hate those. That's just extra. You know,
it just doesn't seem like it doesn't. I don't want to say hate it. I just don't think it makes a lot of sense. Like it's cool, but it's like,
it's cool. Yeah, I don't think I don't think it's meant to be taken super seriously. It's just kind of like a cool extra piece of hardware. I don't think no one's gonna remember who the Eastern Conference player of the tournament or whatever it was. Eastern Conference player of the playoffs, Western Conference MVP. No one's gonna remember that. It's just kind of cool. Take home an extra trophy. I think the NBA's got the money to do a couple extra trophies a year, so gives them an extra headline. If they want it, cool. But
so
in terms of Depoy, I think Depoy should just be more evenly split. And it doesn't even matter because Wemby's going to win it the next 15 years anyway. So it really doesn't even matter. We don't have to worry about it until 2048.
I agree with that. And the thing that sucks about it is, I'm looking at like individual stats. Like we talk about guys who just completely break records that haven't been broken in a while. Yeah. I was looking at like steals per game record, like per game in a season. I think the highest was Alvin Robertson, and that was in 2000. No. I'm sorry. That was in 1985-86 season, and he did.
Shout out Al Robertson.
Facts. It was 3.6 per game.
Dang.
And right now, Dyson Daniels is sitting at 3.4 a game.
Yeah, like if Dyson Daniels is able to come close to that record, then like we should just give him consideration, regardless of whether there's
got to be in there. Get it. But then, like you said, Wemby is Wemby, so he's probably got a lot different.
You don't even got to worry about that. We could do a whole episode dedicated to Wemby. Guys let us know if you want. We could do like a 2-minute drill just solely about Victor Wembanyama. We didn't touch on him in this episode, but we could spend an hour talking about it if we wanted to. But I think that will do it for this episode of the Beyond the Backboard Podcast, episode 69. Again, Omar will be back with us next week for episode 70. If you guys are excited for that, and as always, if you're excited for more BTB content, hit that like button and comment down below. Show us some love. We'll show you that love right back. Again, we're posting on YouTube Shorts. We'll have the Spotify's going out, some TikToks occasionally. We have some news being cooked right now. We're working on some things behind the scenes. So hopefully we'll have some exciting news to share soon. Nothing yet, but keep your ear to the ground. You might hear something in the coming weeks. So we appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for the support. This is Max. That's Earl over there, or down there. I don't really know. Omar's in South Africa. And we're wishing y'all a good week. Be safe, y'all. Be well.
Peace, guys.